Hey, Brad Kazmarski back. Now we're doing shoulder mobility. So the active straight leg raise and shoulder mobility are the foundational movements or the primitive patterns, guess whatever you want to call it, the first two to clear in the FMS progression. I consider it a hierarchy actually, so those are the first two we want to clear. So shoulder mobility, obviously, I'm not going to go through it, is the reaching back, reciprocal motion. And to break it out a little bit further, because on my YouTube page, that's the most that's viewed is shoulder mobility. So I think there's a lot to it. And they talk about movement, and Greg Cook's first book, Athletic Body and Balance, the importance of thoracic spine mobility and proper movement in the thoracic spine before we look at the shoulders even. So what we're going to do is go to another breakout in that. So once we've done the actual test, or screen, I'm sorry, the active shoulder mobility, now we're going to take something, a stick behind us, preferably a longer stick than this, knees together. So if you want to break, we're going to look at our T-spine rotary stability. So seated, 90 degrees, knees together. Now we've taken our lumbar spine out of it, and we're going to pinch this back here together. So now all we're doing is rotating through our thoracic spine. We want to be, if 90 degrees is all the way back around, we want to be able to get to about 45 degrees. So I'm a little bit short. I don't know if you can see in that angle, but I should be able to take this 45 degrees both ways. So I'm limited in this position in rotary stability. I should be able to rotate 45 degrees. So this is a little bit more weight-bearing position. So now I'm going to go down another level onto the ground and see if it's more of a actual mobility limitation or some sort of motor control issue that's causing me in this position to not be able to get it. Now we're going to the lying position. So in this position, elbow underneath, I'm going to center my elbow underneath me. We can do external rotation, rotate up, or internal rotation, depending on if we include or take the shoulder out of it. So right there, I'm able to get 30 degrees. We're looking for about 30 degrees, which doesn't matter to you what 30 degrees is. You're going to feel if you feel really stiff and restricted or if it's not a big deal. And then we're going to go the other side too. So looking mostly at left to right. So we're looking at, can we do it? Does it feel stiff to us? So does it feel really restricted in that pattern? And does it feel different internal, external? Or does it feel different left to right? Left to right, big difference. If we can do that easily, but we can't do the seated position, that's some of the 4x4 right there. So in a non-weight bearing position, we can move our body through that. Our mobility is there. We go up, lower ourselves a little bit in weight bearing by seated or standing in the test, and now we can't do it. So you could even go into this position here and do the shoulder reach and touch. I'm stiff, as you can see. Does that change in different positions? So that was a lot, so I'm going to do a quick recap. And the shoulder mobility screen, if you do not do well in that, which I do about a 2 or borderline 1 to 2, then I'm going to personally do the seated thoracic spine rotation, which I did first. You see, I had difficulty in that. That might make it easy to say I have a tight thoracic spine in rotation. I have lack of mobility. But I went down to the ground and I was actually able to have just fine mobility. So when I took the weight bearing out of it, I was fine in my thoracic spine rotation left to right, both ways. So that tells me that I have actually more of a weight bearing issue in rotation, because when I did it lying, I was fine. When I did it seated, I was restricted. So that's going to affect me standing. So I have some sort of, in that sequence from ground to quadruped to kneeling to standing, in my T-spine it went from just fine, cleared mobility, to motor control issue as I went up the chain. That is where my corrections are going to begin for me. So I think it is important to be able to find out right there, it's not necessarily a mobility restriction, it's a motor control sequence in my mobility, and then I need to know where I need to start. So that seems a little bit complicated, so ask me any questions, but then we'll start our correctives from there.